Rashad, what's up, you handsome devil?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Good, bud. How you been? They didn't talk to you in a damn month.
No, it's been a minute. Good. Just a little under the weather, but I'm good. Everything's okay. I'm on the tail end of it, so we're good.
I feel that. You gotta tell them folks at work to stop taking you off the show, man.
Yeah, nah, it's not work, man. It's been the summer, kids, travel, all this stuff, man. So not just work.
How's the wind there?
Yeah, it's picking up, man. It's woke me up this morning, so I've been up really, really early, and it's just constant rain. Constant rain. So
yeah, we haven't got rain yet, but we are getting the winds. So
yeah, it's everything. Wind, rain, hitting heavy here.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob, the great one, Alonzo with you. And it is Thursday, not just any old Thursday. It's game day Thursday. The Carolina Panthers tonight, preseason game numero uno. They are on the road at Gillette Stadium to take on the Bill Belichick-less New England Patriots. Gerard Mayo getting his first crack with the headset on this evening. The same is true for the man in charge of the Carolina Panthers. That is Dave Canales getting his head coaching debut this evening. To talk about expectations for that game, we are finally, for the first time in years, joined by the host of the Panther Nation podcast. You can follow them on X at Panther Nation PC. More importantly, head over to their YouTube page, Panther Nation Podcast. Rashad Beard back in the building. Been a minute, fella. What's happening?
What's going on, guys? First of all, I do want to apologize for my absence. There's been a lot going on over the summer, so I do apologize for those folks that do anticipate this part of the show. So I apologize.
I mean, me. It's just me.
What you talking about? Those folks, like everyone is. I'm always excited about Thursday.
I don't know.
It's true. Breaking out the Steve Smith jersey. I got a chance to interview Steve on this station last Thursday. We broadcasted live from Panther Fan Camp down at Clemson. Got to talk a little bit to Steve Smith about his expectations. We're not going to get to see Xavier Legette tonight, but we are going to talk about him very briefly, obviously, as we're here in the Upstate, just down the road from Columbia, South Carolina, where his Gamecocks play. Your thoughts? Because one of the things that Steve Smith told me, Rashad, last week was the expectations might be getting placed too high on this young man out of the gate. He pointed out the fact that there's a lot of people who think that the height and the physicality that he played with at the college level are just going to immediately translate to the NFL. That's not how it works, that it was going to take some time for him to learn the intricacies of the game. That actually kind of perked my ears a little bit because that happened at South Carolina too. Like, he was a late bloomer. It really wasn't until his last year that he kind of found his stride a little bit. Do you think Steve's right? Like, are we setting the expectations? Is the excitement about a first-round draft pick guy in Xavier Legette, are Panthers fans maybe setting the bar a little too high for this cat early?
I hope they would listen to PNP, because we kind of told you this was going to be the case. We said that it's going to be a slow burn for Legette. There are several guys in front of him, including Deontay Johnson, who's going to be the true wide receiver one, going to consume a lot of targets, a lot of yards. He's got the tried and true veteran Adam Thielen. Jonathan Mingo is having a great camp as well. So there's just not enough footballs to go around for Xavier Legette. And it does not help that he's, a little banged up. He's nursing that foot injury, which is why we're not going to see him tonight. Again, we knew this was going to happen with Legette. I kind of called this on the entire class that this is going to be a wait and see. It's going to be a slow burn for this class. And it's okay. The roster has been built as such to where we don't need to rely on our young guys. And that's okay. Let's get these guys developed and ensure they enter the game properly when they're ready. And he's going to have some packages drawn up for him. I've seen it in training camp. He's got had some reverse plays. They're gonna manufacture touches for Legette to touch the football. However, it won't be every down. You're not going to see him touch the football a lot just because there's not enough footballs to go around. So let's take your time here. The same thing can be said for Jonathan Mingo last year. We don't need these guys to come out there and light it up. Let's just let them slowly develop. So again, if you haven't been listening, if you've been listening to PNP, you wouldn't be surprised with this at all.
So that is, I think, a philosophy you don't just put on XL. I think you put that on that team, right? I asked our listeners earlier. I'm going to ask you the same thing in a minute, but I'll give you a second to think about it. I think it is important. I did this to Clemson. I did it to the Gamecocks. I'm doing it to the Panthers. I think it's important for people to define success for the year so that at the end of the year, we can objectively say they did or did not meet what I consider success. But while I do that, I am also urging fans of Carolina to use a little restraint when they do that, to use a little bit of patience, because I think the expectation is, well, Dave went to Geno, made him comeback player of the year. He went down to Tampa, got Baker a $100 million contract. Obviously, we're next in line. Obviously, BY is going to come out as a Pro Bowler. Obviously, I saw a news article from a respected sports outlet the other day that said, hear us out, Carolina will win the division this year. And I'm like, man, I think there's a lot of people, and hey, you're sports fans, we know how this works, that are really trying to mash the accelerator on what you and I have both said in agreement. This is a minimum, like a 2-year kind of expectation for us. I feel like you take everything you just said about XL, you put it on this football team, and you're still right.
1,000% agree. And if you've been to camp, you would agree with that too. I mean, it hasn't been perfect. Like we've seen some areas where, hey, this offensive line, while we did invest a lot of money to the offensive line, they need time to gel, right? They've got a big week coming up next week when the Jets come into town, and we'll see where we stand truly when we line up across from the Jets. That's a good team. Aaron Rodgers coming to town, all that good stuff. So we don't know. We won't know. We don't know what we have with the Carolina Panthers. And ultimately, what's the sad thing is, success is measured in wins and losses. So we could talk about Bryce's development and all that good stuff and the small wins, but ultimately, success is measured in wins and losses. So for me, if I'm gonna look at this season and call it success, I would say 7 to 8 wins to me is success. I consider that a big win for the Carolina Panthers, considering you're coming off 2 wins last season and you coming off 5-win season the year prior. 7 to 8 wins is more than enough and it should appease Carolina Panthers fans.
Talking to Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, as we do every Thursday at 8:40 here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Talk a little bit about tonight, preseason game number 1 on the road at the Patriots. Dave Canales has told us no Bryce Young in this competition. My working theory, Rashad, I want to make sure everything else is clicking before I throw him out there. I want to make sure the offensive line that we invested in is on the same page. I want to make sure the run game, which I think you utilize to protect Bryce Young, is clicking. I want to make sure everything's good before I throw him back out to the Wolves, because I think if he comes out and gets smoked early, you do start to run the risk of dinging up the confidence if it didn't happen already last year. That's my theory behind why you're not going to see number 9 tonight.
Yeah, I see all sides of this, bro. That's the biggest topic right now going on in Panther Nation is, should Bryce Young be playing? Should he not be playing? It's interesting. I've heard all sides of it. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, they're playing their guys for an entire quarter, right? They're the defending Super Bowl champs. People talk about, oh, it's just preseason and you don't have to worry about it. All reps matter, right? And however, I do agree that everything needs to be right for Bryce. You cannot mess his confidence up too early. And the way that offensive line, I think Damian Lewis is a little dinged up. So, you got one of your starting guards not playing. You're probably resting those guys so that they can be ready to go up against the Jets next week. So I see the positives in not playing Bryce Young while things aren't clicking on all cylinders, because I've been at the practices and I've seen that offense. I've seen Jadeveon Clowney destroy our offensive line. I've seen our backups even get some. And again, I know that not our offensive line hasn't been fully complete at every practice. So I don't want to sit up here and say that our number 1 offensive line is getting destroyed every practice, because that's not the case. Moulton has been out several practices. Lewis has been out several practices. Robert Hunt's taking vet days. Corbett's taking vet days as well. So these guys are taking some time off. But what I'm saying is that I agree with what you're saying, that everything needs to be perfect in order for Bryce to get out there. And if it's not, we don't want to mess his confidence up. However, I do want to see him play in preseason games, whether it's week 2 or week 3. I do need to see Bryce Young get out there and get some reps live. It has to happen, in my opinion.
Rashad Beer, Panther Nation podcast here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Talk to me about the wide receiver core. We know no XL this evening. I suspect if you get any Adam Thielen and Deontay, it's going to be very, very little up front. This, to me, feels like an opportunity for the guys we have talked about, the TMJs of the world, to go shine, to go earn a spot on the roster effectively. What do you expect? What do you want to see out of the wide receiver room tonight with Jack Plummer tossing the rock?
Yeah, man. Shout out to Jack, man. He's been developing a little bit. He's gotten better. I've been at these training camp practices. Some of my initial thoughts on him was that he was holding on to the football way too long. Things were progressing quicker than what he could process. And so he's getting better though. So we're going to see a lot of Jack Plummer tonight due to the injuries to Andy Dalton. And so it's going to be all him pretty much. I know we got signed Jake Luton, who is familiar with our game. He's been around since last year. So yeah, a lot of Jack Plummer. And I do want to see these receivers. At the end of the day, we still have a good battle with these wide receivers. The back end between, when you talk about Terrace Marshall, Jonathan Mingo, Smith Marset, Devin Tompkins, Jalen Coker, there's a lot of Mike Strong. There's a lot of opportunity for these guys to go out there and make a name for themselves. So absolutely, there's a battle there to be won. And I'm not saying that it's locked up. I don't know how many wide receivers we're going to keep. And I don't know what's going to happen with Terrace Marshall long term. I still think there's a topic of discussion between Dan Morgan and company on whether they're going to keep him or invest in some of this younger talent that we have. But it's an opportunity for these young guys for sure to take advantage of it. So we'll see. I'm excited for it.
A few more minutes with Rashad Beer to the Panther Nation podcast here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. We were talking earlier in the show about like, what do you watch? I've said preseason football ain't for casuals. All right. It's not to watch to go, oh, yay, I hope we win. This is where those of us that like to coach from the couch get the opportunity to start making our dissections of the team. I'm interested to see what Jack Plummer does. Not necessarily because I think there's some big competition about who the practice squad QB1 is, Jack Plummer or Jake Luton, but more if Jack Plummer looks comfortable, looks confident, looks decisive in the pocket, then there's a little bit of confidence in me that maybe Dave Canales is that guy you brought him down to be, which is kind of a quarterback whisperer / head coach. Jack Plummer's performance to me tonight, Rashad, is not just about Jack Plummer and whether he can be the practice squad / QB3 behind Andy Dalton if you need him. It's about whether or not Dave Canales really can develop a quarterback, because if you can bring a guy along that suddenly looks like he might be quarterback 2 material, that kind of lends some credence to the theory about Dave Canales.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that's very applicable. So I think that it's very interesting. And I've watched Jack. He has developed over the past couple of days, taking on those more reps when Andy Dalton went down. So it is going to be very interesting to see how he performs. When you're watching this preseason game, for me, I think the defense is going to do their thing. Evero has done a great job with the defense. I do want to see if there's going to be some pass rush, where the extra pass rush is coming from. Clavon Chason, DJ Johnson, we got some guys that are banged up. So I would like to see what that defense is going to do. The secondary, we got some depth issues there. We want to see tested. So I want to see that. I want to see some of the different personnel groupings that we're going to show off from the offense, right? We talked about, and I've seen a lot of the different movement, the pre-snap movement, when it comes to training camp. I want to see some of that. I'm excited. I'm excited to see this offense because, again, it's all new to us. This is all new. The scheme, we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to get our first taste of the Dave Canales, Brad Isaac scheme. So this is going to be an exciting time. Again, I hope we can stay away from the vanilla word, because I know a lot of Panthers fans are tarnished by that vanilla word. But hopefully we get some Neapolitan ice cream flavored offense. Something that we can get happy about. You know what I mean?
I love it. All right, real quick, last one, then we'll let you go. Rashad, talk to me about the running backs tonight. We talked about them a couple of segments ago. Raheem Blackshear is kind of the guy I'm looking at, right? I know there's going to be a bit of a battle between Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. You got all the money wrapped up in him, but Chuba's the guy that you kind of started to rely on a little bit late last year. But Raheem Blackshear is the interesting one to me, because you got some guys lower onto the depth chart, cost you a little bit less money to keep around. Raheem, I think, is potentially a kickoff return threat as well as a nice change of pace back. gives you kind of a receiving threat if Sanders doesn't really break into that role, etc. What do you want to see out of the backfield? Because Zoe and I agree on very little about the Panthers right now, but one of the things we do is the run game identity has to be established to take care of BY. What are your thoughts on the 3 backs and what you want to see from the rest of the guys on the depth chart?
Yeah, for sure. I think Chuba Hubbard is gonna. I mean, his season is gonna be great. I think he's coming off of a great season last year. Chuba's gonna be the guy. I think Miles Sanders also is playing with a chip on his shoulder. I've seen him come out at camp. He's been yapping at the media. I think he feels a little bit disrespected. He did lose his job, but I do think he's going to fight back, and I think he's going to get some of that rotation. Blackshear, I think, shouldn't surprise anybody. He's been playing very well, especially in the return game. He's shown that in training camp as well. I do think today you're going to see a lot of Mike Boone. Mike Boone is getting a ton of reps at camp. You're going to see a lot of Jaden Sheridan, who is looking great at camp. One of the smaller school guys, got a really shifty, looks really good at camp as well. Probably going to end up being the practice squad guy. But the run game, absolutely, I 1,000% agree. We're going to lean heavily on that run game, and I'm excited for it. Chuba's playing well, Miles Sanders, Blackshear, and then hopefully we'll get Jonathan Brooks down the road. But he's another guy that I told you guys it's going to take some time for him to get going, and it's likely going to be week 4 before we see him in action. And when he does come and play in the game, I think it will be limited. So it's going to be Jonathan Brooks in 2025 when you see that second round pick starting to pay off. And I told you guys about that.
Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast every Thursday here on the Rob Brown Show. Listen, we're not going to talk about it. I'm just going to say a name for you to take a note on. Jalen Coker. Watch my guy. All right, just watch my guy. Watch my guy.
It's my guy. Jalen Coker. Watch out for him.
Rashad knows ball. He knows ball.
Absolutely.
Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast.
I had Jalen Coker on my show. Very good interview. Check it out. He's gonna surprise some folks.
I agree. Find him on X at Panther Nation PC. More importantly, make sure you go subscribe to the pod on their YouTube page, Panther Nation Podcast. Rashad, my guy, good to have you back, brother. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Have fun, guys.
Rashad Beard here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Lonzo Reitzel here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
Up to the minute upstate traffic. The Cordell and Cordell Jam Cam shows there's about a 6-mile area where you'll chug along at less than 25 miles.
He is. So am I. It's all right, though. All we got to do is stay up real late because it's Panther game day. Ladies and gentlemen, pregame is right now. Game is at 7 p.m. tonight. What's that, 10 more hours to go until we have real live football on the TV? Yeah, now I know it's reservist football, and I don't give a darn, a hoot, as my grandma might say. Because football is just football at this point. Just give me anything. Give me guys on the gridiron fighting for their lives right now, and I am tuned in. I shan't miss a moment, and we will, of course, as always, have our full breakdown of the game tomorrow. I will watch the game probably 3 times between here and tomorrow morning show. I will watch it once live. I will replay through some of the things that stand out to me tomorrow night, and I will have it on the TV in the Fortress of Nerditude tomorrow before we go on the air to rip through it one last time and give a full breakdown. Because as Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast and I discussed in the last segment, there's a lot to keep an eye on. We need to keep an eye on the running back core. I told you that. Rashad agreed. We got to keep an eye on some of the reservist wide receivers. There are going to be dudes who are going to get cut tonight. All right? Not technically speaking. But Dave Canales is going to walk back into the HC's office this evening with at least a couple of decisions that have already been made. And, we'll see if we can give it a run as to figuring out who that is before we start tomorrow morning's radio broadcast. I'm just glad we have TV. I'm just glad we have football on it, is it? I'm just glad that tonight at 6:59 and 59 seconds, the world stops existing outside of these 75 inches of plasma screen, HDMI, 4K, whatever my TV is, that are in the bro cave.
A plasma?
I don't know. I think it's, I don't know. What's the best one? That's the one I got. LED?
I'm guessing it's, do they still make plasma?
I don't know.
I'm not saying your TV's outdated because you just bought that thing, didn't you? The big one?
Yeah, like a year ago.
Yeah.
Not even a year ago. When did I become a Costco executive member? I think it was right at a year ago. That's when I got it. Let's go a year ago, I think is it. The executive membership paid off in one purchase, by the way. That TV is great. I mean, I went through last football season with it, so it's been at least a year. Really glad to have it back tonight, though. So, I want your thoughts. I want your expectations. What do you want to see? And again, I've asked the question already. What are your expectations, Carolina Panther fans? I have asked this of the Clemson Tigers. I have asked this of the South Carolina Gamecocks. I have asked this now of you Panther fans. Rashad said something that I expected to perk up the ears of the great one, Lonzo. Because Rashad, I think, was kind of halfway between Zoe and I. Rashad said, at the end of the day, results are measured in dubs and L's. Which, yeah. I mean, that is how results are measured. That's the ultimate result, is a dub and an L. The argument I made...
You're saying that he's on my side.
No.
Because that's a normal thing.
No, I think what he was also saying, though, is that if you are looking at this team and you are expecting, because he did say this, if you are looking at this team and you are expecting more dubs than L's this year, you're going to be mighty disappointed. He said, hey, look, this is, and I'm using his words here, a slow burn. This is a slow burn. That was my biggest fear. This is why I asked the expectations question, because I think a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, when I last night was show prepping and saw an article entitled, Hear Us Out, Carolina will actually win the division this year. I said, Oh, no. That's going to be disappointing for these guys.
This is not a throwaway season. It's a build for next year. A slow build for next year.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly. This is what I would call a bridge year, a development year, a progression year. This is a year that if I am a fan, I am watching to, Lonzo, you said back in the first hour, at the end of the day, sports are what? Entertainment. Bingo. And just like any other medium, you choose to be entertained by things. You elect what entertains you. And I'll use movies as my example. Big comic book movie guys over here, right? Last week, when I sat down to watch Deadpool and Wolverine, or as I am affectionately referring to it as Deadpool and Friend, when I sat down to watch Deadpool and Friend, I expected to be entertained. You know what I expected to be entertained by? Lowbrow humor and bleep jokes. That's what I expect. I went in expecting lowbrow humor and bleep jokes. And what do we get? That plus some pretty spectacular cameos, including one that I was over the moon about. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
And a better story than what you expect there to be. Yes.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It was pleasantly surprising how they worked all these extra things into what turned out to be a fun, compelling story within the overall MCU, but that's not what I went in for. I expected to go in for jokes about male genitalia, French pole vaulting jokes, and Ryan Reynolds being adorable. That's what I expected to go in and see, and that's what I got. But there's a difference between when I sat down for that and had those expectations than, for instance, last year when I sat down to watch Oppenheimer. Had I turned on Oppenheimer and gotten French pole vaulting jokes, I would have gone, this is massively disappointing. The expectations were very not met here. There's a difference. I compare that and contrast that to, for instance, the difference between watching the Carolina Panthers and, let's say, I don't know, the Kansas City Chiefs. Lonzo, what's your expectations for your Kansas City Chiefs this year?
Three-peat, baby.
Three-peat, baby. For sure. And so, Lonzo, if your team this year says goes 9-8 and misses the playoffs in the AFC, what would your reaction to that be? Would you go, wow, spectacularly entertaining?
I don't want to speculate on that because what that says to me is someone got hurt.
Lonzo, regardless of the reasoning why, you slayer of hypotheticals, you. If your team went 9-8 and missed the playoffs, your reaction in this hypothetical world would be what?
Disappointing.
Yes, thank you. See how easy that was?
What, to read your script?
Just a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down.
Radio's improv. You can keep your scripts. I can tell you what to do with them.
The answer is Lonzo would be, as expected, disappointed. What would the reaction be of the random Carolina Panther fan if the Panthers went 9-8 and just barely missed the NFC playoffs this year?
We're pretty excited.
A freaking party. Sound the club horn. They would be jacked about that because the expectations are different. And therefore, what you're watching for should be different. You should watch Panthers games expecting jokes, whereas the Panthers or the Chiefs are watching expecting Oppenheimer. Okay, I can go into either and come out just as entertained. In fact, I actually, for the record, I really enjoyed Oppenheimer. I'm a giant dork. That story about the entire Manhattan Project fascinates me. It fascinates me immensely. I'm a dork. Judge me.
I didn't watch it because Cillian Murphy kind of freaks me out.
He's a unique looking cat. Okay. I enjoyed Oppenheimer immensely. And despite the fact that I am as sophisticated and highbrow as they come, I enjoyed Deadpool more. Okay? I liked Oppenheimer a lot. It was very good, very compelling, very entertaining, very interesting. But I enjoyed Deadpool more because sometimes you appreciate a good joke.
Best movie of the year so far.
Hard to disagree with that. Genuinely hard to disagree with that. So, what I'm throwing out here is, if you're a Panther fan, as Rashad Beard tried to inform, instruct, enlighten in the last segment, if you're a Panther fan, I wouldn't suggest watching this year with high expectations. Don't expect to go in winning Best Picture this year. Don't expect Dave Canales to win Best Leading Actor this year. Go in expecting to be entertained. Go in expecting to say, that was better than I thought it was going to be. Whatever that is. Again, did I go in expecting Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman to put together a performance that I'm going to be telling my grandchildren about years down the road? No. Did they deliver that? Yeah. If my hypothetical kids were to have hypothetical grandkids that were into comic books in 50 years, when I'm 90 and drooling on myself, then maybe I'd go, oh, you like comic books? Let me tell you about a Canadian and an Australian that made a really funny movie. That would be like a fun conversation for us to have, hypothetically speaking.
Man, I hope you sound like that when you're 92.
Do you imagine the sports talk radio show that we would do?
Dude, I will not be alive then.
It's time for the college football 64-team playoffs. There's only one conference.
I would be well into my hundreds. I
Into my hundreds.
Yeah, I don't think that will be happening.
The point here is, did that movie turn out better than I could have hoped it would? Yeah, for sure. Am I putting it up for Best Picture? Yeah, probably not.
No, because people actually went to watch it.
That's fair. It's not unfair. It's not some stupid artsy-fartsy film. All right? But my point is, as Rashad said, this is a slow burn, dude, right? I asked him about Xavier Legette because I had that concern. Carolina Panther legend Steve Smith aired that concern to me when we interviewed him here on this show last Thursday. An interview, by the way, that you can find by going to thefanupstate.com. Right in the middle of the page is a button that says podcast. Click on that, drop it down, find the Rob Brown Show. Full segments, full hours, and highlights. That really hurt a lot. All available on the podcast section of the Rob Brown Show at thefanupstate.com, including last Thursday's interview with Anish Shroff, the voice of the Carolina Panthers, and Steve Smith, the Carolina Panther. In my opinion, him or Luke Kuechly are the Carolina Panther, right? If you only got one to be face of the franchise, it's 89, right? Like Luke Kuechly, runner-up.
See, I would go with Luke first, but it just depends on if you're a defensive or offensive guy. It's like that.
It's like this or like that or like this. I go 89. Point here is he said the same thing. He said, you got to wait a minute. You're setting the bar too high. You're setting the expectations too high. Rob Brown. Well, not Rob Brown. I know ball. He wasn't saying it to me. He was saying in general. You're setting the expectations too high. And like I told Rashad Beard, I am concerned that fans are doing the same thing for the team at large. I am concerned that the fans are setting the expectations too high in year number one. If you were expecting 9-8, 10-7, a wild card berth, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed because I think this is a 2-year building pattern. Does that mean they can't be good this year? No. Does that mean they won't be good this year? No. Does it mean they won't be better? Of course not. I expect better. I grabbed over 4.5 wins on the futures market and feel real good about that. I'm still taking them right now at 5.5 wins and feeling good at it. I think 6 is the minimum. That is 300% more wins. I'd say that's better. What I'm saying is be real careful about how high you set the expectations. That's it. UNC Chris texts the show at 71307, 71307. Start your text with Fan FAN. He said, expectations for the Panthers. Let's go win. Yes, Rob Brown. Whatever your expectations are, lower them. I don't want to see you guys hurt again. But me, I know I'm ready to be hurt again. How dramatic. Appreciate that text, Chris. 71307. Start your text with Fan FAM. We'll read them on the air. 844-326-3663 is the number to the renewal by Anderson at the Carolinas fan phone. What are your expectations for this year? Panthers fans pregame number 1 tonight. The Rob Brown Show rolls on after this. It's the Fan Upstate.
3 friends.
All right, guys, one more live and we're back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. right, y'all, we're back. Thanks for being here. That is oh, that hurt to read a little bit, NFL kid. That hurt to read a little bit. Let's say we match. Let's say 2 and 3. Although I'll say this, I don't think you're not getting Aaron Rodgers next week. Aaron Rodgers is not going to play, maybe in the preseason at all. But if he does, it'll be minimal at best. That being said, if you are watching the preseason for wins and losses, you are watching the preseason wrong. That's it. These are not games you play for wins and losses. These are games you play to see where your roster and development are.
Still winning's okay too. I mean, you know, if they win too on top of developing and all that kind of stuff, that's nice.
Put it this way. Dave from PNP, Rashad's co-host, Rody said, quote, when somebody tells me the preseason doesn't matter, I try to remind them that, yes, it absolutely matters. Correct. But not the preseason record. The 0-16 Lions, you will recall, went undefeated in the preseason that year. If I recall, didn't Brady's Super Bowl Bucks not win a preseason game? Weren't they 0-4?
I think so. I think Baltimore hadn't lost a preseason game in like years, and then they finally lost one. It's not a reflection on anything other than you're supposed to watch and see how well they're doing, but still winning's okay too. Hope Gerard Mayo comes out with like his sleeves ripped off and just, you know.
Just continues the hoodie tradition.
Yeah, why not? Welcome into the Fight Club, where even when we are forgotten, we still come in punching, and like, you know, people forget that we're supposed to be here, but we're here.
I didn't forget. I just didn't hype it. That's my bad. All right.
That's all right. I mean,
my bad.
It's appointment listening. We get Rashad. We get wrestling. I think Joe said that earlier on Thursday. So what we get Rashad. We get wrestling. I don't know what else could make Thursday better.
The Braves not sucking.
I was gonna say free food, maybe. I mean,
do like that.
There's some things.
Were there any leftovers the other day?
No, they brought in a lot though, and they were really good. But I knew it was already good anyway. If you guys have never had Zaxby's tacos, pretty good. They really are. They also brought in cheesecake bites. I think they were. Yeah, you couldn't have it. Yeah, they
probably
really
a good thing I left.
Yeah. They were with strawberry dipping sauce, which, you know, was really good. All right, so SummerSlam happened last weekend. Probably one of the best SummerSlams in recent memory. Really, really good. And my question for you is, did this truly signify the beginning of Triple H's? I think more so than WrestleMania. WrestleMania was great, but I think this is more of a Triple H kind of thing. With all those championships changing, including Braun Breaker, Nia Jax, LA Knight, and Gunther, all won championship Saturday night.
Yeah.
All of them. Some people, I'm sure, are saying finally they gave LA Knight a championship. But over half of those guys, or let's see, Braun Breaker, LA Knight, and Gunther, all NXT people.
That is correct. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the Triple H buildup has felt real to me for a while. And I say so because of two things. Number one, the ramification of long-term booking, which is something that I don't think existed for like a hot minute there. It was all short-term. It was, this rivalry starts here, we have the pay-per-view payoff, and then it's over. Whereas we're seeing these lasting ramifications that go on for weeks and months. Somebody pointed out the other day that if you really think about like the Rhea Ripley Liv Morgan story, all the things Liv did to Rhea are all things Rhea did to Liv in years gone by, right? Like you can go back a couple of years and it was payback for all of it. The
That's
Judgment
why
Line,
it's the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour.
Absolutely. The Judgment Day JD Finn thing. Here's the thing. JD and Finn aren't wrong. They went about it Big Lebowski style.
You're not wrong. You're just an.
But they're not wrong in how they feel about friend of the show, Damian Priest. I think it has been burning for a while. What I do think this was the explosion of the stick of dynamite that's been burning for a couple of years now.
All right. So also, I don't think we're going to fight about this, but I've been thinking about this today. NXT is the best minor league in all of sports.
Okay. You know what? I'm actually good with it. And I'm good with it because it is the only minor league, including baseball, and I'm a baseball guy. I get paid to talk about it every Saturday. It's the only minor league that I don't just go out of my way to watch every week. I retroactively watch it every week, right? Like if I miss it on a Wednesday night or Tuesday night or both, if I miss it, I'm going back to watch it the next day. I finished up this week's NXT last night at like 11:30 before I went to bed.
Say his name.
I have a hard time saying no.
Was that crowd not crazy
So
for
good.
him? Yeah.
And that start to the match, brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
More people need to do that.
When they say, see the stars of tomorrow today, it's really true in NXT. If you look at the makeup of both SmackDown and Raw right now, and let's face it, some of AEW, a lot of it started in NXT, and where those guys and girls have been developed, learn how to do things a certain way. And the next thing you know, at least now under Triple H, when they get to the main roster, they're able to bring their personas with them. They're able to expand on the foundation that they built and not be relabeled, renamed, and all that kind of stuff.
I think that, and NXT was good, not just for the wrestlers, because you're spot on. It was good for Triple H too, right? Like I think it kind of allowed him to develop the strategies that he's put together as far as that long-term booking, as far as that nuance in characters that, yeah, this person's a face, but let's not pretend they're perfect, or this person's a heel, but let's not pretend they have, they don't have good tendencies or good traits. This is why I've said in movies for years, the best villains are the ones who have a point, the ones who are right. Thanos had a point, went about it the wrong way. Execution was poor, but he's not wrong, right? And I think Triple H kind of started to figure that out with NXT guys, and he carried that up. So now the NXT guys that get called up, they've had that experience in the NXT system, which now fits onto the main roster as well.
All right, I have something to admit, and it's really weird, and I just now thought of this.
You believe in Joe Hendry?
Well, no, I mean, I do. And not only do I, but so does my granddaughter. I can't convince my wife to believe in Joe Hendry, but, I'm working on it. I feel sorry for Solo Sikoa. I do. I mean, we've all seen people who think they're the guy to take up the mantle when the other guy leaves, and they believe their own hype. They believe everything, and then they get up there and they get knocked down a major peg, and that's what Solo did. I mean, with the return of Roman Reigns.
You know how I feel about it? And I've wondered how to put it, and I think I just came to it. I feel the way I think that, and I'm not one, so those of you that are can correct me on this. You know how when you were a kid and you got in trouble and Pops snapped the belt and said, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you, or he sent you to timeout and he said, I feel like that's kind of how it is. Like, the guy screwed up. The guy deserves some discipline. The guy's got to be corrected for his behavior and attitude and all that. But on the flip side, you still you kind of feel bad for it because you got to learn what's wrong and be disciplined for it before you can fully grow up. But here's the reality, man. He usurped the throne of the tribal chief and, more importantly, consistently disrespected. My man put Paul Heyman through a table. That has to be accounted for. That has to be adjusted for correctly, and he got what was coming to him. Now, the question is, does he grow from that, or does he come out and go right back to, you got me when I was already weak, when I was mid-match, where Cody had already hit me with the crossroads 97 times. By the way, can we make finishers great again? We'll come back to that, I hope, at some point down the line. But you got me in a weak spot. You're still weak. You needed to jump me, blah, 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 blah. Like, whatever. Did he learn the lesson? And that is when wrestling's at its best.
All right. By the way, speculation here. Roman Reigns going to speak Friday night. The Bloodline beats him up.
I think what you're going to see, because I think the story works if and only if, and I think this is the focus of the story. The focus of the story is not Solo Sikoa in the Bloodline. The focus of the story is Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso making amends for their behavior when they were the Bloodline. I think it is because Roman by himself cannot beat the new Bloodline. And I don't know who's with him right now. Like Cody will probably be like, hey, thanks for it. But also, you wronged me a lot. We'll say we're even, but I don't owe you anything. So how does Roman make amends to Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, all these other, because I think we're going to kind of get a very similar as we did at WrestleMania, where you kind of need that like Avengers Assemble moment to get rid of the air quote tribal chief, right? I think you're going to need that moment in order for that moment to happen. This has got to be a Roman Reigns apology tour with a bunch of people that have no interest in being apologized to.
I don't think he does that. I don't think he apologizes. I think he stays who he is, and Jimmy comes around, and maybe there's I think another Fatu out there that's been signed. So maybe you start signing some other guys to go up against the Bloodline. Just a couple minutes left. We finally got to see Gunther was out there talking, and then I heard music I was not expecting. And I literally out loud went, oh, okay. All right. That works. Randy Orton versus Gunther in Germany. Looking forward to this. You know, I was expecting to hear Brock Lesnar's music. I was.
I don't think you get that in Germany. If this match is in America, I think you got a better shot at that. And I do think you will get that match at some point, which is why Randy Orton's losing this match. They're not having Gunther go over there and drop the title in Berlin. But, and Nine asked me this question from the Rise Guys the other day. He said, A, did you expect it? And B, if I gave you control, is there a better match you could have booked for that? And I could not come up with one because you can't. Initially, I was like, what about Dragunov? Those guys put on slappers in NXT, but you can't send Dragunov because he, as good as he's been, and I actually love his like completely reckless way of wrestling, he hasn't done anything that makes you feel like that is a contentious match. Randy Orton's a legend. And that line of, I'm glad you think you're a legend because I've made a career of killing them was a banger of a line. I don't think you could have come up with a better match in that spot than Randy Orton looking to become a 15-time, and in order to do it, he's got to take the belt off of Gunther in front of Gunther's people.
Finally, the last thing.
Sorry, friend of the show, Gunther.
Friend of the show, Gunther, who sat over there and said that, you know, his dream match is with Brock Lesnar. Joe Hendry, does it burn out or does it continue to grow?
I got to tell you, the dude, I went down a Joe Hendry rabbit hole on YouTube the other day of just all the parody songs and everything he's done over the years. It burns out if and only if they don't let him be that guy, right? If they go, you're too goofy, we need you to be goofy, but tone it down a little bit, then it will not work. You have to let this guy go full goofy. You need to let him come out and sing Creed's Higher, but can you please get fired again? Like, you got to let him go full tilt Joe Hendry because that's what we're all in for. And I will say, as H goes, he's pretty much let the guys be the guys and the gals be the gals, right? Like, who's toned it down in the past year? Nobody, really. And I think that's the only way that Joe Hendry thrives in WWE. They let him do that, we will all believe forever. Wrapping up the show next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Joey B, I don't blame that on WWE, though. I blame that on Punk knowing that he's on a very short leash for the rest of his career, right? Like, no matter how well he does, He's on a very short leash the rest of his career.
You gotta believe there were some contract stipulations when he came back.
I think he's on a very short leash. And the only way for him to not tread on the wrong side of that razor's edge is to be more of a cartoony caricature version of himself than to be the guy that's been fired everywhere else he's ever been.
Have you seen the latest video from Ciampa and Gargano?
Yup. Phenomenal.
Ciampa could just learn to not say,
I was excited.
Wonder how many takes that takes.
Also, Truth just referring to people as random retired wrestlers is my favorite thing. Sorry. Friend of the show, R-Truth.
When he said Ricky Morton, I was like, I interviewed him before. That was an experience. It's about Ricky Morton.
Yeah.
Of course, interviewing R-Truth was definitely a lot of fun. Rashad left this thing on.
Cool. Welcome to the show, PMP Army.
We talk about more than just Panthers here.
Correct. Roadmaster, welcome in. Rage 1984. We did like 7 segments of Panthers today. We did more Panthers today than my boss will be comfortable with us having done.
Because it is game day.
Because it's an all-purpose show.
Yeah.
But we did talk a lot of Panthers. However, every Thursday at 9:20 after Rashad Beer, we do Fight Club. Your home for combat sports in the upstate of South Carolina. Ordinarily, we get some boxing or some MMA in here as well, but we did have one of the big 4 this past weekend, and you know what that means.
If you didn't like the wrestling, you really would have hated when we talked about the pole vaulter. If you talk about Ricky Morton, that was a whole thing. It was scary because I thought he was going to slap Chris Evans at some point just for no reason, because he got mad, he cried, he had all the emotions there in one interview, and at one point the stream camera broke, and one of my co-hosts looked at me. I was like, shook my head like, no, don't say anything. And he reached out and grabbed the camera, and it was in the camera, and it wasn't working at the time. It's like, yeah, don't tell him. Still wonder what Chris would have done if he slapped him.
Passed out.
Maybe.
Got KO'd.
Maybe.
Down for the 10 count. Wrapping up the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate for Thursday, by the way. For Thursday. Team USA taking on Serbia. Nikola Jokic and co. will be on the receiving end of today's contest. It has been an interesting past couple of weeks for Team USA basketball, mainly because of something that we have not talked about yet, and that is the number of injuries that this team has sustained. Now, we know about some of them. We know that Drew Holiday had to miss a game because of a busted wheel. We know Anthony Davis had a bit of an issue as he's bounced back and forth between.
Yeah, but that don't because he's always hurt.
I mean,
he's
always hurt. He's rarely injured, but somebody stepped on his foot in that game against South Sudan. Fortunately, didn't have to miss time. LeBron James had to get 4 stitches. My guy got busted up and open. By the way, those of you that are anti-LeBron guys, you got some lulls in that contest the other day because LeBron got checked out. And while he was going to the bench, because they are obviously in France and those games are taking place at the same time as many other Olympic events, Leon Marchand is a French swimmer who has just been racking up medals. Well, during the game the other night, they showed Leon Marchand, who was at the Team USA basketball game. They put him up on the big screen, and the French audience lost their damn minds because their Olympic hero was there. Braun thought the applause was for him. He's on the bench, like, waving to the crowd, and then he looks at the monitor to realize that they're showing Leon Marchand, and he's like, I was just stretching the old arm out, getting the old shoulder loose in case I got to go lift a few more J's. I'm good. Pretty funny moment.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Even as a Braun guy, pretty funny moment.
You need to be humbled every once in a while, no matter who you are.
Yeah, I'm good with it. Anyway, after the win over Brazil, it is very fortunate that Team USA men's basketball has avoided injuries because it's a physical game. FIBA basketball, Olympic basketball, is dramatically more physical than NBA basketball. It's a different set of rules. There's no defensive 3 seconds, meaning that guys can just absolutely get after it in the paint. The rules on goaltending are much more relaxed. You can go get the ball off the rim, meaning that you've got to fight for rebounds earlier and longer than you do in NBA basketball. The closeout rules are much more old school than they are at the NBA. You can close out hand check a lot more physically in FIBA basketball than in the NBA. So it's just a more physical game. It is one of the few spots that Team USA is at a disadvantage, despite the fact that, especially this year, they have, and I mean this, the deepest and most talented roster of basketball players ever assembled anywhere at any point on the face of planet Earth. This team would wreck the 92 Dream Team. And y'all, I'm a Larry Bird guy at heart. I'm a Magic guy at heart. I'm 39, so obviously I grew up with Mike. But this team would wreck the 92 Dream Team.
No.
Wreck them.
No.
I'd set that line at like minus 17 and a half.
No.
Wreck them.
No, they would not. It's come on, dude.
Your argument is what? You're asking an old and almost retired Larry Bird, an old and almost retired Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas not on the team. Like, the heart of that team was Mike. And oh, by the way, that's a Michael Jordan before you hit me with he wanted to win more than anything. The only reason Mike joined that team, and this is a true story verified by guys on the team, the only reason Mike joined that team was so that he could travel to play golf. In fact, he said, I will only join this team if I am allowed to golf when we are not playing. That's why he played so much golf.
I think there's because I'm going to do that thing where they're used to a better or more physicality. And because of that, I think they would beat up this team a lot more. And like, wouldn't even have to shut Steph down because he ain't doing anything. AD, you go against him a little bit and he's going to get hurt. The only people you really have to worry about on this team against the Dream Team would be Kevin Durant and LeBron James. That's it. Everybody else would get shut down. And the guys who aren't shut down, they would be in so much awe that they're playing the greatest of all time.
You're doing that thing where this is what I would do, therefore this is what everybody would do.
That's what you do. That's not. That's
I don't think so.
I mean, you do that projecting thing. It's not working.
No. I'm telling you, this team's just better. But put all that aside. What I am going to say about this squad is that whether you like the players as individuals or not, are you not, just forget the names, are you not pretty damn proud about how this team is playing at the Olympics?
You just brought up them against the Dream Team. I don't know why. I mean, as far as that goes, we expect to win the gold in this, and we should do it.